Alors, bonsoir et bienvenue à tous. I want to welcome everyone to our second year of doing our professional discovery series. As you probably are aware, we're doing a medical night. Alors, c'est la deuxième année qu'on le fait. L'année passée, c'était notre première expérience. Cette année, on le fait encore une fois pour vous, espérément avec différentes informations pour ceux qui étaient là l'année passée. That being said, first and foremost, we are very lucky at Herzliah. On a des enseignants, des professeurs qui travaillent diligemment à pouvoir créer ces programmes pour vous. So I have Miss Laura Fratalillo and Miss Emma Brooks, who, while we have the initiative, they are the driving force that actually make this possible for all of you. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Et avant tout, j'aimerais remercier les professionnels qui sont venus ce soir. Everybody here is quite busy, I'm sure, in your fields. So I will try not to speak longer than I have to. We are also very lucky to have an alumnus here, Dana Elbaz, who will be our moderator, and I will let her do her thing from this point forward. So, merci beaucoup. We hope that you have a great evening. Bonne soirée et à Dana.
Good evening, everyone. I first and foremost want to thank Herzliah for having me here and to all of you who came out tonight. My name is Dana Elbaz, and I'm a third-year medical student at the University of Montreal. I graduated from Herzliah in 2012. During my time at Herzliah, I learned how to balance my schoolwork, my social life, and my extracurricular activities such as dance. I've always been passionate about science, but my desire to pursue a career in science, and more specifically in medicine, was reaffirmed in secondary 5 when I had the chance to participate in the HOPS program, where I shadowed different medical professionals. After graduating high school, I went on to study health sciences at Dawson College. Being in a larger school was definitely an adjustment, and the course load was a lot more than I was used to. I worked hard and focused on my classes, but I made it a priority to see my family and friends, to continue to dance for the Israel Cancer Research Fund show, and to tutor, which is something I love and still do today. I also volunteered in different healthcare facilities and did a bit of research in physiotherapy, which allowed me to explore some career options. Even though it was hard to know exactly what I wanted to do at such a young age, my love for science, my passion for teaching, and my desire to take on a role that had a hands-on approach just as much as a social approach led me to a career in medicine. The application process was tough, and it was a lot to demand of my 18-year-old self, but I believe it was a process that allowed me to understand who I was as a person at that point in my life. At 19 years old, I was fortunate to be accepted to the University of Montreal's medical program. It started full force and has been an uphill battle ever since, I won't lie about that. So I would often ask myself, why did I choose this path? Is this a sacrifice worth pursuing? It's easy to say that I wanted to be a doctor ever since I was very young, which is completely true. And it's also easy to say that I love helping people, which is also true. These are some reasons I had when I first started out. But it was really after seeing my first patient that I had a deeper understanding. The answer to my question lay in a feeling and couldn't really be put into words. So it was as if everything that I worked towards finally made sense in that moment. Only a few months ago, after being in university for 3 years, I started my full-time stages in the hospitals. I completed 6 weeks in pediatrics at Saint-Justine Hospital, and I'm now in my internal medicine rotation at Sacré-Cœur. Residency is around the corner, and I'm considering and applying to pediatrics. A child's ability to be so resilient in a time where they're so vulnerable is something that I admire. Working with different age groups allowed me to understand first-line care when it comes to a baby versus a teenager. Treating a baby has a lot to do with treating the parents and making sure all their questions are answered. Treating a teenager has a lot to do with assessing the medical situation at hand, but also looking at any psychological aspects that could come into play. And that's a part that I really enjoyed in my stage. After only a few months, I realized that in medicine there are many fields that suit many different personality types and many different goals. So I'd like to share my goals with you. I want to practice a type of medicine where I can be in direct contact with my patients and with their families, where I can be an investigator and a problem solver, where I can be working as part of a larger team. But I also want to practice a type of medicine where I can be a wife and a mother, where I can build a Jewish home, and where I can be present. So it's with these goals in mind that I'll apply to my residency program next year. So I challenge you all to reflect on your own ambitions, your career goals, and your life goals. To close off, I wanted to say that the path I chose is not an easy one, but it's definitely a wonderful one. Very few things in life come easy. What's important is to work towards a specific goal, because I can assure you it'll all be worth it in the end. Thank you. I'd now like to present our first speaker. Dr. Michael Kalin is a family doctor and is the medical director of the Family Medicine Group Santé Kildare. Dr. Kalin graduated from the University of Toronto Medicine in 1999 and went on to graduate from Western University in Family Medicine in 2001.
I'm sick, so I'm gonna do my best. There's a joke: never go to a doctor whose office plants are sick. Yeah. Thank you, that was really beautiful, and I agree with everything you said.
No, it's your screen.
Medicine, before embarking on the journey that led me to where I am today. So I'm going to try to spend the next 10 minutes quickly trying to answer this question. And I think at the end we have a couple of minutes if there's some questions. The first one is, name the family doctor. Most of them are not family doctors. Any guesses? I don't know if you can see. I'm a little biased. Yeah?
There's House.
House is not a family doctor. He's a nephrologist and an internal medicine specialist. Doogie House, I think is he a pediatrician? Lev.
Dr. Sarah Tancredi.
Sarah Tancredi might be. She works in a prison. She could be a family doctor.
I don't know, I didn't get very far in the show. Jack from Lost, I think.
Jack is a surgeon.
Oh.
Jack is a surgeon. There's the Rambam, yes. Put the Rambam in there. I like Fleisch, you know. Fleischer, what's his name? Fleischman, Northern Exposure. Like, right over there. Yeah, most of them are not family doctors. I'm going to put up some nice slides here along the way. The best doctor is one that you run into and you can't find. What I wish I knew about family medicine at the beginning. What is family medicine? There's a lot of people that don't know what it is. It's amazing, even though it's the most common residency. It's a new residency. It was established in Western in 1966 and in Calgary and in McGill much later. It's actually not a GP. This is something that people I think are synonymous. Family doctors and GPs were completely different. It used to be that when you went to residency, before you started residency, you did what was called an internship. And everybody, whether you were in surgery, psychiatry, internal medicine, you did a 1-year rotating internship. And when you were done that year, you got a license called a general practice license. And you could leave. You could practice. What happened was they felt that people were leaving too early. They didn't have enough expertise. So what happened was they slowly phased this out and they replaced it that now you don't do a rotating internship anymore, but you go right into a residency program. And family medicine is one of those. It's a minimum of 2 years. And family medicine is based on 4 principles. I'm not going to bore you, but the premise is family medicine is community-based. Unlike a lot of specialties that are based in a hospital, family medicine is not. Family medicine is supposed to be in the community. We're supposed to be a resource to the community. Oh, there, George Carlin. Oh, so I just want to put these out very quickly. A really good point about being a female in medicine. The face of medicine in general is changing quite dramatically, and more women are going into medicine. Women dominate now 7 fields, and this is from 2013, but women now make up the majority of family medicine, and this is going to dramatically shift, even more so tipping the scale towards women in the very near future, as older male doctors in their 60s are retiring. Well, they lost there. So if family medicine is what's considered to be a general practice, is it less prestigious than being a specialist? Some people feel that way. Well, actually, Quebec was concerned about that, and 7 years ago, to offset this, they made family medicine a specialty. It's a name only, because they felt that people were not choosing family medicine because it didn't have the same allure. But in fact, I don't think there's any shame in being the general whatsoever. And one analogy I was given was the cake. And ask yourself this question: would you rather have one color, or would you rather eat them all? Because if you're a family doctor, you cut the cake this way, and you get every slice, every layer, including the icing. If you're a specialist, you take one of the colors. There you go. A little ball for you guys. We're known as the jack of all trades, or the gatekeeper of the healthcare system, and we do lots of things. I'll give you an idea just quickly here. We take care of children, of elderly, palliative care, ward medicine, rehab medicine, aesthetics, rural medicine. We are surgical assistants. And in my own brief career of 15, 16 years, I've done all of the above. It's been a wonderful challenge. One of the amazing things in medicine is that it doesn't take very long before you reach a frontier. What do I mean by that? Well, you can physically work in a frontier, and I used to work in northern Quebec quite a bit, which was an amazing experience. Last year I was a doctor on March of the Living, and I was a camp doctor for 8 years too. But what I mean by frontier is it doesn't take very long before you can do something innovative, you can do something unique and something new. And that's one of the great things about family medicine, is our diversity, our opportunity to really tailor a practice to our own individual needs. Awesome. What I wish about family medicine: ideas are rewarded. When I applied to medical school, I tell this story to my kids all the time, and we had to take the MCAT, and on it they give you an essay question, and the essay question is: will an easy fix solve a problem? And I remember writing this and thinking, well, of course they want me to say, no, it doesn't. And I had decided to say that it does, because if Mr. Burns would fire Homer Simpson, the Springfield nuclear plant would be actually profitable. And I'm convinced to this day that's why I got into medical school, because of my essay on Homer Simpson. But my idea here is that you want to dare to be different. You want to dare to stand out. You want to dare to try to change the way things are done, because as you know, our healthcare system is not as good as it can be, and it's begging for new innovative ideas to make it better. And I believe family medicine gives us that opportunity. What do I wish I knew? It's a business. I'd be lying if I didn't say that. I wish they gave us business classes in medical school, because when you graduate, you have to buy equipment, you have to take out a lease, you have to establish a practice, you have to hire staff. You know, in my case, I set up what's called the Family Medicine Group, which now has over 25,000 patients, and we employ over, depending how you count, part-time, full-time, over 20 doctors. We have 5 nurses, we have a social worker. This is a tremendous undertaking that really I felt ill-prepared, and I wish in many ways that I understood that this is my livelihood, and that, you know, nowadays you read about the Liberal government and the Minister of Health, Barneau, and how it will impact things like our savings, our retirement. God heals and the doctor takes the fee. You are a patient advocate. I loved what you said earlier about the interaction with patients. My father is a family doctor, and I remember him saying to me, after being in practice for 40 years, what he loves the most are the people. You know, the friendships, the colleagues. The medicine is intriguing, it's fascinating, but really at the end of the day, it's the people who make it so special. And as a family doctor, and it allows us to really advocate to try and make things better. And whether it's speaking about how our healthcare system is set up, or when the government is trying to change things, which I believe are encroaching on patient care, it's the job of the family doctor to stand up. Oh, there we go. I mentioned earlier about making it better, being creative, being innovative. And I believe now that you guys are in an extremely exciting time that allows you, hopefully in the future, to change the way medicine will be practiced, the way how we communicate with patients. And we look back, it wasn't that long ago when medicine was also in the need of changes. We had cocaine toothache drops or asthma cigarettes, which at the time were normal care, but nowadays we look back on it and we realize, thank goodness somebody came along and did the research and realized that we can do better. Your preparation already started. One of the beauties of family medicine is that you take care of kids, teens, adults, families, everything. So everything that you do, even now, is something that you can build upon. It's an experience. I remember thinking when I used to take care of pediatrics, how ill-equipped I was until I had kids of my own. Same thing with pregnancy. Until my wife was pregnant, I didn't really understand it. And that's the beauty, is that these life experiences prepare you to become a great doctor. I don't want to take very much longer. My personal path was through Brandeis University, where I went and I did a bachelor's in history of ideas. I was a pre-med student. And then from there I did a master's in American history. And along the way I got involved in as an EMT, an emergency medical first responder. And it was called Brandeis Emergency Medical Corps, BEMCO. And Deborah Messing was on BEMCO with me. Although I don't remember her at all, I'll be honest. But she was a senior and I was a freshman. But before she went into an acting career, she did that. And I put Paul Revere's right in the middle there because my teacher, my mentor, was a American history professor and who won the Pulitzer Prize, and I was one of his research assistants. And the experiences that took me to medicine, I believe, enriched me as a doctor today. What matters is the doctor you will become, not where you went. I think this is a very important one, and it's one that I reflect on myself. When I went to U of T, I was so proud because U of T is a very highly ranked school. But the truth is, the joke is, what do you call the student who comes last in their medical school? A doctor. And it really doesn't matter that you go to the program that a magazine says is the top one. You have to go to a place that you think where you can succeed. And from there I went to Western, a much smaller program where I really had the opportunity, I think, to flourish. And I can say from my own experience, having been at McGill, Western, and Toronto, and seen many students come through my office, the best one was someone who came to me last year and was in my office for a month, who came from Sabin University in the Caribbean, and she was outstanding. So I think we sometimes get caught up on, I have to go to that program. But really, go to the program that meets your needs. At the end of the day, the diploma doesn't define you. The type of doctor that, you will decide the type of doctor that you want to be. And this is something I put up the Chanuki at the end. One of the most memorable essays that I read when I was at U of T, I sat on the admissions committee. I remember I would read all these essays people were saying about why they want to become doctors. And one student wrote, and it really stuck in my mind, he said, I was working on Wall Street. Somebody had to lose. But in medicine, when somebody else gains, I gain. And the idea of that the light, you can take a light, and the light in the room does not get diminished because you take a light from somewhere else. It just gets expanded. So I sort of try to cover a lot of ground there, but I think from my perspective, family medicine offers that opportunity to really be creative, innovative, and allow you hopefully to find balance, and other fields too, between being a professional and being somebody who can be there for their family and for personal development. Any questions?
Business, where he was recruited to play soccer and become an all-American athlete. He subsequently completed his dentistry degree from McGill University. He is presently an assistant professor at McGill University and consults the Medical Cardiology Institute on dental matters. Dr. Raviv is a general dentist who is involved in research projects and writes dental articles.
So usually this is how it works. You are at the beginning of the road and it's very clear which way is right and which way is wrong. It wasn't that way for me, and probably not that way for most of you, if not all of you. I can tell you that when I grew up, I did not want to be a doctor. Nothing was further from what I was thinking about. Growing up, I grew up in Israel. My life passion was soccer. Everything that I did surrounded soccer. And so I played at the highest level and came here when I was 14 to Sec 4, which is where most of you I think are. And continued along that path. I was playing here also at the highest levels, and I was having a lot of success. And in my mind, that's what I was going to be. I was going to be a soccer player. And my parents said, you know, maybe you should have a plan B. You know, it never hurts to have a plan B. And I said, sure, what do you know? But if you want, there is this show on TV that I really like. And for those of you that don't know, probably the older generation will recognize that show. It's pretty much what today is Law and Order or Suits for the younger guys. So that was a pretty cool thing. Both my parents are in dentistry, and I'm pretty sure they might have wanted me to say dentistry, but I was trying to stay as much away from dentistry as possible and sort of pave my way and do things the way I wanted. And so knowing that law would be my backup plan, I figured there's no point taking all the extra science courses. I believe in Sec 4 or 5. I don't know how it is today, but back in the day you had a choice of taking the higher math or the highest sciences. And I said, well, why work hard? You know, I know I'm not going to need that, so I might as well go and do the easier things and get myself into law later. And then at the same time, my cousin went into a school in England, London, England, and her brother, who was around my age, was applying to go. And I said, you know what? My parents said, why don't you apply? And I said, I'm never going to get accepted right out of high school into law school in England, but to make you happy, I'll fill in the forms. As far as I was concerned, I was going to go to CJEP with all my friends and pave my way into law school that way. And so as I graduated high school, guess where I ended up? In London, England. This, by the way, is probably the only sunny day in London, England. And so don't fool yourself, it's a beautiful place, but generally that's not what it looks like. So I spent 3 years. I can tell you that the first hour of the first lecture, I remember sitting there with my cousin by my side. There's 200 people in the lecture hall, and the professor was coming in, and he started the lecture by saying, if any of you are here because you watched LA Law and you think this is what it's all about, I suggest you rethink your career. And I remember sitting and looking at my cousin and saying, maybe this was not the best move. And so probably within the first year I realized that as much fun law is, it's probably not the path that I'm going to end up with. The problem was I didn't really have a plan C. And so at that point I had conversations with family, with friends, and he was either going back to do CJEP or finish the law degree. And at the time I said, it doesn't hurt to have a law degree on your resume. Everything is going well, why not? So 3 years later, I graduated law school. I was still very young. I have no idea how they accepted me to law school that young. I wasn't even 20 yet, and I graduated law school. And then I said, maybe it's time to pursue something that I was passionate about, which was soccer. And so during the second or third year of law school, I made some contacts in the States. And they came, they watched me play, and they decided that they want to offer me a scholarship to go play soccer in college in the States. And that picture to me looked much better than that picture. This is Miami, Florida, and I said, not much to think about. I love soccer. I love this picture, and so let's go and play soccer. But at the same time, I have to study. What do I study? So it's funny because I ended up choosing business, but it wasn't because I wanted business. It was simply because I was going to play soccer, and I had to study at the same time. So I was going through the curriculum and saying, well, no, no, no. Well, business, I guess business goes well with law. Let's do that. And so I went through the motions. I enjoyed myself very much. I played soccer for 4 years there. I did very well. I was the captain of the team. I was very happy in what I was doing. And then that's a picture of me. Let's see if you can recognize me. Where's the mouse? All right,
The one with the C.
Yes. Once I graduated, I had about a year of professional soccer that I played. I was not getting the break that I was hoping for. I could say that I could have made probably a career in soccer, but I was not Messi or Ronaldo or any of those guys that make millions. And so I had to sit on the bench and find the opportunity to make my moment. And unfortunately, that didn't take place. I did get injured at some point, which made things even more difficult. On the side, I was working in legal consulting, trying to develop a career on the side. But as the wheel was in motion, I was not happy. I was not happy waking up in the morning. I was getting frustrated with the type of work that I was doing. And it got to a point where I started reflecting. And I started asking myself if I made the right decisions. And it's usually best to ask these questions at the beginning and not later on. And that's why my presentation is atypical for a medical night. But I think it could be interesting because it maybe will allow you to ask the right questions, simply learning from my experience. So I did some soul searching, and my path was, let's go back to basics and ask questions. And so as I was asking questions, I was looking for the answers. And what I realized is that our brain is like Google. It's a search engine. If you go on Google and you're expecting the answers to just pop up, they're not going to pop up. You need to type in a question and press enter. Once you do that, the answers pop up. And so I never asked myself the right questions. So by going into that process, I started asking myself, what is it that I want to do? And then I started becoming more specific. So I asked, do I want to be independent or do I want to work for somebody else? How many hours a day do I want to work? Do I want to work a 9-to-5 job? Or do I want to be independent, make my own schedule, sometimes work longer, sometimes work weekends, sometimes not? Do I need a job that is financially secure? Or am I content with just pursuing my passion and making less money? Or maybe there is a possibility where I can have both. Do I want to work with people? Or do I prefer staying in a room with a computer? Or, for example, in the medical field, a radiologist is somebody that sits mostly, not always, but mostly. I want to go into the medical field. I started to shadow. If there's one thing that you should take away from my presentation today, or from anyone's presentation, in my opinion, is once you think you know what you want to do, take the time and shadow. Find somebody that inspires you, find someone that's doing what you think you want to do, and spend as much time as you can with them. And believe it or not, people will give you the time because they went through the process as well. So I started shadowing different professionals together with my parents as well. And I realized for myself that dentistry was the right direction. I really enjoyed working with my hands, and going through the motion of asking the questions, it sort of directed me towards that profession. And so I put McGill Dentistry as the summit of my path, and now the idea was I needed a starting point. I needed to figure out what it is that I need to do to get into dentistry, and I need to know what path to take to get to my own Everest. I went back, so this is where not taking the science courses in high school kind of hit me at the age of, I believe it was 25 or 26, when I realized that to get into dentistry I need to do the calculus and the physics and the chemistry and the organic chemistry and all of those. And so it was a bit of a challenge going back and starting from scratch and learning long division again. It was an interesting choice. Again, I echo what Dana was saying. At that point, it was sort of reflecting and discovering a lot about myself. And it was a risk, because going back to school didn't promise me anything. I could have gone back to school and done 2 years of sciences and not get into dentistry. And so it was a bit of a risk, but I believed in my path. And people were questioning my choice. And they were asking me if I'm sure I'm making the right decision. I already have a law degree, I have a business degree. Why would you even think about changing and going somewhere else? And at that point I realized that it was really myself against myself. I had to believe in myself that this is something that I can do. And once I believe that it can be done, I will set the goal and achieve it. And it took a lot of hard work convincing myself, but once I've done that, I set myself on that path. It takes any job in the medical field, and in other fields as well, but particularly in the medical field, takes a lot of conviction and determination. The one thing that is common to all the successful people out there, no matter what they do, is certainty. They know what they want. They're not confused. And so once you know what you want and you're determined, you give it 100%. I put this picture. Some of you may know this movie. This movie is called Rudy. I highly recommend all of you watching this movie. It is a movie about football, but the message has nothing to do with football. It's a true story about a young guy that had dyslexia, and I won't give you too much information, but I highly recommend all of you watching that movie, Rudy. 2005, I ended up getting into McGill Dentistry. I pursued doing other things within the dental curriculum, and I graduated in 2009. I then went in to do a general residency at the Jewish hospital, and as you can see, dentists do know how to have some fun, auditioning for singing contests with a suction tube. So once I finished the general residency at the hospital, I went back to teaching. I really enjoy what I do today. I went back teaching at McGill. As they mentioned, I'm consulting at the Cardiology Institute for Dental Matters. I'm involved in consultation for dental company and innovation of products. So these are some of the things that I didn't know that you could do in dentistry, even when I was researching. And that's what's interesting about the medical field and dentistry in general, where you could do a number of different things other than the clinical aspect of taking care of people. So we're lecturing in continuing education, and of course in private practice. And that's our private practice. This is the family, and we go by the SMILE motto, which is special magic in living every day. So I was trying to condense my life experiences into as short of a time as I could. Any questions, I'd love to answer.
Dr. Kakovich is our last presenter today. She's an obstetrician gynecologist at Lakeshore General Hospital in the West Island. Originally from Montreal, she studied in Alberta and Ontario and finished her training in 2007. She is married with 5 children.
I am very low tech, so I do not do a PowerPoint presentation. And I wrote stuff down, so I'm going to mostly read, but I'll add a few things, and if you have questions at the end, that would be great. So my name's Stephanie Krakovich. I work in the West Island. I bet about half of my clinical time is at the hospital, so Lakeshore General Hospital, and the other half in my my outpatient clinic, Sante Sunnybrook. I have 5 kids and I'm married. So over the course of my training and my practice, I've learned a lot of different things about medicine and life-work balance, and I'm happy to answer your guys' questions at the end, but I'll tell you my journey first. So from about the time I was 7, I wanted to be a doctor. I'm originally from Montreal, and I went to Wager High School and then Dawson College. I did my undergraduate degree in anatomy and cell biology at McGill University, and then I left the province thinking I would never come back to go to medical school in Calgary, which I finished medical school in 2000. I started my residency training at McMaster University in Hamilton, Ontario, and I finished in 2007. I had switched to Ottawa by the end, so I finished at University of Ottawa in 2007. And then I moved back to Montreal to start building my own practice in 2009. So I've been back in Montreal since 2009. In that time, I got married before second year of medical school, and I had 3 babies in my residency. So residency for obstetricians and gynecology, like Dr. Kaelin said, is usually 5 years for a general obstetrician gynecologist. It took me 7 years because I had 3 maternity leaves, and I was pregnant with my 4th baby when I finished. So I had another maternity leave, and so that's how 2009 is when I sort of started my own stuff, and I had another baby after that. So I'm going to tell you a bunch of maybe not as positive or uplifting things first, in terms of things I think you might want to know before thinking about going into medicine, but in the end, I really enjoy what I do, so it's not a bad thing to go into, but I just wanted to sort of say these are things that I could have known or would have known beforehand. So if you're already thinking about medicine or sciences, you know it's very competitive. Not only medicine itself, but getting into medical school is competitive, and then getting the residency spot that you want is competitive. So it's good to think about a backup plan, a plan A or B or C. So I didn't, but you might want to consider going into a career-oriented bachelor degree, so something like physiotherapy or occupational therapy or something else in a paramedical field that, you know, maybe you'll love too and you'll want to stay there, but if not, you have sort of a backup before going to medical school. There's a lot of different paramedical fields where you can be working with people and helping people, so it's not only medicine or dentistry that you can do those sorts of things. But if you're determined that medicine is really, really what you want, obviously you know you need to work hard for it. You need to get good grades, but also make sure that you're well-rounded and you can bring more than just marks to your medical school applications and your interviews. You may already be thinking you know what field you want to go into and what specialty you're aiming for, but I encourage people to keep an open mind until they're actually in medical school and doing their clerkship rotations and being exposed to different fields, because there's so many different fields that you probably don't even know exist out there. So I wanted to be a doctor from the time I was 7, and I really thought I wanted to be a neonatologist, which is a pediatric subspecialty from that age. I wanted to work with babies. But when I was in medical school and doing my rotations, I did a pediatric rotation, and I did not enjoy working with kids. So it was a shock to my system for something I'd been so focused on from the time I was so young to now I'm almost having to choose my specialty, and I have no idea what I want to do. So luckily I was able to find a good fit with obstetrics and gynecology. And I went into it for many reasons, but it's a long process to get there. But it's a good balance between medicine and surgery. You get to work with your hands, you get to do surgeries, you get to take care of pregnant people, you get to deliver babies, you get to do well women care, you get to do everything from pediatrics to old age. That was a really good fit for me to have that balance. When I was in high school, I thought medicine was mostly about helping people, which it mainly is, but there are some aspects that are less rewarding or less fun. There's a lot of politics involved, from government and how we get paid, to hospital policies that affect our practice, to interpersonal conflicts with colleagues that become more or less important depending on whether you're in a group practice or a solo practice. So all these things can affect the day-to-day function and also your job satisfaction, things I didn't think about at all when I was younger. Like Dr. Kaelin said, it's also a business. I'm not that different from many other physicians I know, and I never took any business courses. I don't enjoy business administration, and I really just want to spend my time in clinical work and not dealing with employees or finances. But physicians are responsible for ensuring that they get paid, so their billings and all the things like that. You have to pay your nurses, you have to pay your secretaries, you have to pay all your overhead expenses, especially if you're outside of the hospital, rent, insurance, supplies, and equipment, everything like that. So it would be nice in medical school to have a little introduction to that, or at least to work with physicians in clinics, not only in hospitals, so that you sort of get a taste of what that's like. Partly because of all those expenses and all the policies and all the government issues, it's not as lucrative as people think. So, you know, many people think you're going to go into medicine and you're going to be rich. You're not going to have any problems earning money or paying for things that you want. And we do get paid well, for the most part. But it's not a guarantee that you'll be rich or drive fancy cars or take expensive vacations. There's many, many years that you have to go through where you're not getting paid, you're studying, you're paying to do things, or you're getting paid less when you're doing your training. So if you consider that based on other things that you could start work when you're much younger, there's definitely other things that can pay you more in the end. So don't go into it just because you think it's going to make you rich. I mean, it helps to earn more money if you have less kids, but the one thing that I found to be a little bit disappointing in medicine is that it's not as well regarded as it once was. So people used to think about physicians as you know, this thing to look up to and to aspire to, but the public has a perception that physicians are overpaid, they don't work as hard, they're not as available as they should be, they do the work that other paramedical professions can do just as well. They think we're influenced by money and pharmaceutical companies instead of what is best for the patient. So many patients have little respect for the expertise that physicians bring, the number of years of training that we can provide. They turn to the internet for lots of answers, to their friends for answers instead of trusting in their physicians. So that was hard for me to get my head around, and it's something that I deal with every day. But being an obstetrician gynecologist is still the only thing I could imagine doing. I love being a doctor for many of the same reasons I went into medicine in the first place. It's very rewarding, exciting, every day is something different. I actually get to help people stay well and make them better when they are not. I get to take care of pregnant women and deliver babies. I get to perform surgeries. It's a long road and the training is hard. During residency and medical school, your life is not always your own. You don't get to make your own hours in medical school and residency. You know, it's long hours. But once you're in practice, there's so much more flexibility. So there's a light at the end of the tunnel. In most specialties and in most provinces, you get to work as much or less if you want to. You know, you set your own hours a little bit. You get to work in hospitals or outside of the hospitals. You get to subspecialize or have a more general practice, and you can make whatever you want work. So you can have 5 kids if you have a supportive husband. You can do a lot of different things. So I wouldn't change it. Any questions?
Out tonight. I hope you all enjoyed the different speakers' presentations, and if you have any other questions, you're welcome to come up to any of us and ask us. That's all. Thank you.
I hope that everybody gathered some valuable information. Ce sont ces opportunités-là que nous espérons vont enrichir votre éducation ici. Et aussi, ça va vous donner l'expérience ou l'opportunité de voir au-delà de ce qui se passe dans vos classes. Alors, I really hope that, like I said, you got some valuable information and some insight into the future beyond this lovely building. So, once again, toda rabba, merci beaucoup. I wish you all a great evening and good night, and I hope to see you next month.